Welcome to another episode of Breaking into Cybersecurity, where we talk to cybersecurity professionals that have broken into the field within the past 5 years. Before we get started, the idea of this show is to share this with other cybersecurity professionals so that we can share these tips and tricks for others looking to break into the field. Today's guest, Lundon Livingston, will be sharing his path into cybersecurity and all the tips, tricks, and struggles along the way, as well as any final advice that he has for you. Lundon, you want to tell our audience a little bit about your background?
Yes. Hi, Chris, and thanks for having me on your pod. Cybersecurity has always been something that I've wanted to jump into. And I think as I was working on a help desk over 10 years ago and going to a college at the same time, taking evening courses, there were classes that I wanted to take, but I had already made a sacrifice to take, courses in the mornings and some courses in the evening. I just didn't have the time to take those cybersecurity classes at the time. Fast forward to this time now, I realized I didn't have to wait to take cybersecurity courses that was available through the college. I didn't realize the amount of resources and courses and self-studying options that were available to me now. Once I broke out of that mindset, I began doing self-studying, doing researching, and understanding what was out there in cybersecurity for me to do. And ultimately, what allowed me to break that barrier and to jump into cybersecurity was when I started taking some short boot camp courses, as well as I took a scholarship, SANS Academy through SANS, the SANS Institute, to me as being a graduate of a HBCU college. So I took there were 3 certifications that I took, and I learned so much. And also, along with that were the opportunities throughout school, opportunities that were provided to some of the organizations to learn additional technology. And I think that allowed me to bridge that gap and to get a better understanding of which path and which way I wanted to go in cybersecurity.
So, thinking about which path and where you wanted to go in cybersecurity, what did you do to discover which path you wanted to go? How did you discover what you wanted to do amongst all the paths that were available?
Okay, so I took some time to self-reflect on what I knew and the experiences that I've had as a help desk analyst, a network technician, a system administrator, technical support specialist. And I realized there was a lot of alignment, and my experience based on IT operations, monitoring, doing command line, working with the database, and a lot of technical support, calls analysis. So I started reaching out and networking with people like you and other individuals that are in cybersecurity to understand, what it is that they're doing, asking them questions like, hey, what did you learn? What courses did you take? And it wasn't that I was trying to copy them, but I was just trying to figure out what was there for me to do based on the skills that I had, base it up on what I knew and how I could grow on the skills that I did know. And it came down to different tools. Ultimately, the root was the mind. And not only that was teaching, I saw a lot of leaders taught courses. They taught not necessarily just courses, but they taught and provided assistance with certifications, with particular tools, for example, like Splunk and some other monitoring tools. Individuals that I worked with IBM were very smart with New Relic. It was a monitoring tool that allowed you to monitor your infrastructure.
I love that you took the time and you understood the mindset. That's something that I haven't heard a lot of people say right off the bat, that usually that
Mhm.
came a lot later. Were you already in an IT role at this time?
Yes, I was in multiple IT roles. I sat on a help desk for about 5 years when I was told, London, in order for you to move up to the next level, to be a system administrator, you need to get these certifications. And one of those certifications was a Linux. And they also said I didn't have a degree. So I went back to school. I got the associate's degree, and I also achieved the Linux Plus, CompTIA Linux Plus certifications. And it still didn't allow me to move up. So 5 years went by and I felt it was a total waste. When it was very disappointing to achieve something and be told that, hey, this is what you need from leadership and not being able to move forward. So that's when I started getting a better mindset and growing my character, seeking personal development, how I can be a better person, my communication skills, how I can help others and network with others. And that's what helped me more and more.
I love that. Oftentimes I see in this industry that when you ask someone for advice, everyone will have different advice. Everyone will give you different tips. Everyone will mention different certs. And yeah, you might feel disappointed when you go out and you do that, especially if it's your leader telling you that, and then they don't
Yes.
hold up on their promise. But the important thing that you mentioned there is to hold on to that mindset that everything wasn't done for nothing, that you did
Yes.
learn along the way. You did improve your skills along the way. Now it's time to just integrate those skills in the way that you do things so that you weren't doing the same things you were doing 5 years ago. You might be in the same role, but you're working on different things. You're working on more advanced things. Now, let's pivot a little bit to you decided that help desk wasn't the right thing for you. How did you decide what in cybersecurity you wanted to do?
I forgot to mention this earlier in our conversation, and you asked me, how did I get into cybersecurity and led me to it. I also started teaching a cybersecurity course. I was a assistant cybersecurity. I forgot the title, but I was a teaching assistant for cybersecurity. And I forgot the question, Chris.
Okay. So, how did you decide what role in cybersecurity that you're interested in doing?
Okay. So the role that interests me was cybersecurity risk management and IT examinations. That allowed me to explore everything cybersecurity, because in cybersecurity risk management, it allows me to take a deeper dive and see the entire cybersecurity universe from auditing management's way of leading their teams, how they select their teams, what type of training they have, as well as how often they update their system, how they handle vulnerability and penetration tests, as well as how to provide training, ongoing training to their employees. That kind of opened my eye and allowed me more discoveries.
So, you started to see that you like this role. And I'm guessing at this time you were potentially in another role in your current IT role. How did you go about getting that cybersecurity role? Like all the dirty details, like how many roles you applied for, what did you do, all those details.
Okay, I probably applied for at least maybe 50 to 100 different roles. And remember, my initial role was a cybersecurity teaching assistant. However, that was part. And it took me to reach out to someone to get coaching. And the young lady provided coaching for me, helped me understand the language, and told me some things I needed to research to better understand how to pursue this opportunity. I think that's what ultimately led me to that role. It wasn't as painful from the rejections, because I've known to receive rejections from the past when I was looking for a help desk role or a networking support role. So rejection, that's just time. I think it took me about 6 months to actually land this role, to interview and to be onboarded. And then I was finally brought onto the board.
So, was this role that you can try to trace back to account of just applying to those 50 roles, or was there some networking involved, some connections involved that help you get to the in front of the hiring manager or the recruiter?
So there wasn't any specific networking internally from the organization. I think the only thing that really helped me was, I believe, my past experience, my resume on how I explain what I did, what I've accomplished, my achievements. I think that was the most part. But prior to getting the opportunity, I believe that coaching allowed me to have the right wording in my resume that's aligned with my skill set, my personality and my character that originally allowed them to select me for the interview.
So you'd say this was a role that you only applied via the applicant tracking system for?
So there were multiple roles. I mean, I've been applying for almost the last 10 years. So over time, last time I checked, I think it was over 300 applications from this one organization.
Oh, wow. Talk about detergent. Okay. That's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah. So ever since ever since I was in undergrad school in 2010 and I graduated from Winston-Salem State in 2012, I've been trying to take advantage of student. And most students may not realize that when you're in school, there are programs out there that are available for college students and recent graduates, as well as other programs, whether you're in a boot camp or as long as it's education, you're a student. I try to take advantage of that for the long period of time I was in school.
Okay. So what was this first role and how was it like onboarding to this first role coming from an IT background?
Okay, so this first role, it was a IT examiner. It's a federal government role. I really don't want to share the actual
That's
name,
okay.
just privacy. And basically, the job had like pretty much everything that I've been doing and things that I wanted to do. So I was able to express. So it dealt with, IT, auditing, cybersecurity, risk management, out of NIST guidelines and standards, FIEC for financial regulations, how financial institutions are audited to make sure they have systems in place to prevent attacks or to
Wow. So that sounds like a really interesting role. Did you feel that there were any struggles onboarding to this role? Did you feel like you have to ramp up a lot? What was it like?
Yes, I do feel that there were some struggles coming into this role as far as adapting to the environment, coming from work with private organizations that started up as a startup or just in-house in a technical support role, or because I work with like IBM and Cisco as a contractor. Those are larger organizations. I came into this opportunity and it was not necessarily large, but there was a different approach. Everything was based on guidelines, standards, policies. And it was more trying to understand that and going by the books of things to be correct. And that was like similar to a culture shock. It wasn't necessarily new, but it was different.
Okay, we're approaching the end of the show. As you advanced, give tips for those that were looking to keep up or any advice that you would give them based on your journey of breaking into cybersecurity.
Okay. So from my experience, I had to know what I want to do. I had to figure out what it was I wanted to do based on what I already knew and what I already had. And there are technologies out there that are like the latest and greatest. You want to keep up with that and stick with it. You have to be disciplined. You have to have a habit of learning about that particular technology or skill. And also, I spent a majority of my time volunteering, which I still do till this day. I volunteer. I also teach part-time, an intro to computer networking course. I've taught other courses at ECPI, Georgia Tech, UNC Charlotte, but I've been teaching for the past 4 years to allow me to give back to others, to stay active in this community, to help others, to stay engaging. And those that are trying to get to where I was, I can help them just from my experience. And also, you got to have fun. For the very first time, I coached a soccer team. And I had no experience. The kids had no experience, but we both learned. That helped improve my communication skills, improve their communication skills, and it allowed us all to be a team player. Y'all know something, it just seems like everything is cybersecurity, everything is technical, but you have to think outside box and do what others are not willing to do. And for me, that was volunteering and teaching. There are going to be opportunities to learn. I mean, there's so many resources. You have YouTube, you have the public library, you have so many people on LinkedIn that are willing to help. It's just a matter of communicating and reaching out.
Thank you so much for joining and for highlighting that the transferable skills from both volunteering and your previous roles are highly desirable within cybersecurity, and you just have to take advantage and show how you can bring them over there. Again, all thank you for joining us today on Breaking into Cybersecurity. Please do share this with others looking to break into the field, because that's how we'll develop the cybersecurity professionals of tomorrow.